2Corinthians10. Now I, Paul, myself am pleading with you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, who in presence am lowly among you, but being absent am bold toward you. Now I, Paul, myself beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, who in presence am base among you, but being absent am bold toward you. But I beg you that when I am present I may not be bold with that confidence by which I intend to be bold against some, who think of us as if we walked according to the flesh. But I beseech you, that I may not be bold when I am present with that confidence, wherewith I think to be bold against some, which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Winky face. Casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. And being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. And having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience, when your obedience is fulfilled. Do you look at things according to the outward appearance? If anyone is convinced in himself that he is Christ's, let him again consider this in himself, that just as he is Christ's, even so we are Christ's. Do ye look on things after the outward appearance? If any man trust to himself that he is Christ's, let him of himself think this again, that, as he is Christ's, even so are we Christ's. For even if I should boast somewhat more about our authority, which the Lord gave us for edification and not for your destruction, I shall not be ashamed. For though I should boast somewhat more of our authority, which the Lord hath given us for edification, and not for your destruction, I should not be ashamed. Lest I seem to terrify you by letters. That I may not seem as if I would terrify you by letters. For his letters, they say, are weighty and powerful, but his bodily presence is weak, and his speech contemptible. For his letters, say they, are weighty and powerful, but his bodily presence is weak, and his speech contemptible. Let such a person consider this, that what we are in word by letters when we are absent, such we will also be in deed when we are present. Let such an one think this, that, such as we are in word by letters when we are absent, such will we be also in deed when we are present. For we dare not class ourselves or compare ourselves with those who commend themselves. But they, measuring themselves by themselves, and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise. For we dare not make ourselves of the number, or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves, and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise. We, however, will not boast beyond measure, but within the limits of the sphere which God appointed us, a sphere which especially includes you. But we will not boast of things without our measure, but according to the measure of the rule which God hath distributed to us, a measure to reach even unto you. For we are not overextending ourselves, as though our authority did not extend to you, for it was to you that we came with the gospel of Christ. For we stretch not ourselves beyond our measure, as though we reached not unto you, for we are come as far as to you also in preaching the gospel of Christ. Not boasting of things beyond measure, that is, in other men's labors, but having hope, that as your faith is increased, we shall be greatly enlarged by you in our sphere. Not boasting of things without our measure, that is, of other men's labors, but having hope, when your faith is increased, that we shall be enlarged by you according to our rule abundantly. To preach the gospel in the regions beyond you, and not to boast in another man's sphere of accomplishment. To preach the gospel in the regions beyond you, and not to boast in another man's line of things made ready to our hand. But he who glories, let him glory in the Lord. But he that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord. For not he who commends himself is approved, but whom the Lord commends. For not he that commendeth himself is approved, but whom the Lord commendeth. 2Corinthians9. Now concerning the ministering to the saints, it is superfluous for me to write to you. For as touching the ministering to the saints, it is superfluous for me to write to you. For I know your willingness, about which I boast of you to the Macedonians, that Achaia was ready a year ago, and your zeal has stirred up the majority. For I know the forwardness of your mind, for which I boast of you to them of Macedonia, that Achaia was ready a year ago, and your zeal hath provoked very many. Yet I have sent the brethren, lest our boasting of you should be in vain in this respect, that, as I said, you may be ready. Yet have I sent the brethren, lest our boasting of you should be in vain in this behalf, that, as I said, ye may be ready. Lest if some Macedonians come with me and find you unprepared, we, not to mention you, should be ashamed of this confident boasting. Lest haply if they of Macedonia come with me, and find you unprepared, we, that we say not, ye, should be ashamed in this same confident boasting. Therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren to go to you ahead of time, and prepare your generous gift beforehand, which you had previously promised, that it may be ready as a matter of generosity and not as a grudging obligation. Therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren, that they would go before unto you, and make up beforehand your bounty, whereof ye had notice before, that the same might be ready, as a matter of bounty, and not as of covetousness. But this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. So let each one give as he purposes in his heart, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. Every man according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly, or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that you, always having all sufficiency in all things, may have an abundance for every good work. And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. As it is written, he has dispersed abroad, he has given to the poor, his righteousness endures forever. As it is written, he hath dispersed abroad, he hath given to the poor, his righteousness remaineth forever. Now may he who supplies seed to the sower, and bread for food, supply and multiply the seed you have sown and increase the fruits of your righteousness. Now he that ministereth seed to the sower both minister bread for your food, and multiply your seed sown, and increase the fruits of your righteousness winky face. While you are enriched in everything for all liberality, which causes thanksgiving through us to God. Being enriched in everything to all bountifulness, which causeth through us thanksgiving to God. For the administration of this service not only supplies the needs of the saints, but also is abounding through many thanksgivings to God. For the administration of this service not only supplieth the want of the saints, but is abundant also by many thanksgivings unto God. While, through the proof of this ministry, they glorify God for the obedience of your confession to the gospel of Christ, and for your liberal sharing with them and all men. Whiles by the experiment of this ministration they glorify God for your professed subjection unto the gospel of Christ, and for your liberal distribution unto them, and unto all men. And by their prayer for you, who long for you because of the exceeding grace of God in you. And by their prayer for you, which long after you for the exceeding grace of God in you. Thanks be to God for his indescribable gift. Thanks be unto God for his unspeakable gift. Deuteronomy 15. At the end of every 7 years you shall grant a release of debts. At the end of every 7 years thou shalt make a release. And this is the form of the release, every creditor who has lent anything to his neighbor shall release it, he shall not require it of his neighbor or his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. And this is the manner of the release, every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it, he shall not exact it of his neighbor, or of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Of a foreigner you may require it, but you shall give up your claim to what is owed by your brother. Of a foreigner thou mayest exact it again, but that which is thine with thy brother thine hand shall release. Except when there may be no poor among you, for the Lord will greatly bless you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess as an inheritance. Save when there shall be no poor among you, for the Lord shall greatly bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it. Only if you carefully obey the voice of the Lord your God, to observe with care all these commandments which I command you today. Only if thou carefully hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all these commandments which I command thee this day. For the Lord your God will bless you just as he promised you, you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow, you shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. For the Lord thy God blesseth thee, as he promised thee, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, but thou shalt not borrow, and thou shalt reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over thee. If there is among you a poor man of your brethren, within any of the gates in your land which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not harden your heart nor shut your hand from your poor brother. If there be among you a poor man of one of thy brethren within any of thy gates in thy land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not harden thine heart, nor shut thine hand from thy poor brother. But you shall open your hand wide to him and willingly lend him sufficient for his need, whatever he needs. But thou shalt open thine hand wide unto him, and shalt surely lend him sufficient for his need, in that which he wanteth. Beware lest there be a wicked thought in your heart, saying, The 7th year, the year of release, is at hand, and your eye be evil against your poor brother and you give him nothing, and he cry out to the Lord against you, and it become sin among you. Beware that there be not a thought in thy wicked heart, saying, The 7th year, the year of release, is at hand, and thine eye be evil against thy poor brother, and thou givest him not, and he cry unto the Lord against thee, and it be sin unto thee. You shall surely give to him, and your heart should not be grieved when you give to him, because for this thing the Lord your God will bless you in all your works and in all to which you put your hand. Thou shalt surely give him, and thine heart shall not be grieved when thou givest unto him, because that for this thing the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thy works, and in all that thou puttest thine hand unto. For the poor will never cease from the land, therefore I command you, saying, You shall open your hand wide to your brother, to your poor and your needy, in your land. For the poor shall never cease out of the land, therefore I command thee, saying, Thou shalt open thine hand wide unto thy brother, to thy poor, and to thy needy, in thy land. If your brother, a Hebrew man, or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you and serves you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And if thy brother, an Hebrew man, or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. And when you send him away free from you, you shall not let him go away empty-handed. And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. You shall supply him liberally from your flock, from your threshing floor, and from your winepress. From what the Lord has blessed you with, you shall give to him. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee thou shalt give unto him. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you, therefore I command you this thing today. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee, therefore I command thee this thing today. And if it happens that he says to you, I will not go away from you, because he loves you and your house, since he prospers with you. And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee and thine house, because he is well with thee. Then you shall take an awl and thrust it through his ear to the door, and he shall be your servant forever. Also to your female servant you shall do likewise. Then thou shalt take an awl, and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservant thou shalt do likewise. It shall not seem hard to you when you send him away free from you, for he has been worth a double hired servant in serving you 6 years. Then the Lord your God will bless you in all that you do. It shall not seem hard unto thee, when thou sendest him away free from thee, for he hath been worth a double hired servant to thee, in serving thee 6 years, and the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all that thou doest. All the firstborn males that come from your herd and your flock you shall sanctify to the Lord your God. You shall do no work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. All the firstling males that come of thy herd and of thy flock thou shalt sanctify unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt do no work with the firstling of thy bullock, nor shear the firstling of thy sheep. You and your household shall eat it before the Lord your God year by year in the place which the Lord chooses. Thou shalt eat it before the Lord thy God year by year in the place which the Lord shall choose, thou and thy household. But if there is a defect in it, if it is lame or blind or has any serious defect, you shall not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. And if there be any blemish therein, as if it be lame, or blind, or have any ill blemish, thou shalt not sacrifice it unto the Lord thy God. You may eat it within your gates, the unclean and the clean person alike may eat it, as if it were a gazelle or a deer. Thou shalt eat it within thy gates, the unclean and the clean person shall eat it alike, as the roebuck, and as the hart. Only you shall not eat its blood, you shall pour it on the ground like water. Only thou shalt not eat the blood thereof, thou shalt pour it upon the ground as water. Deuteronomy 16. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover to the Lord your God, for in the month of Abib the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God, for in the month of Abib the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. Therefore you shall sacrifice the Passover to the Lord your God, from the flock and the herd, in the place where the Lord chooses to put his name. Thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover unto the Lord thy God, of the flock and the herd, in the place which the Lord shall choose to place his name there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread with it, that is, the bread of affliction, for you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day in which you came out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it, 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction, for thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of thy life. And no leaven shall be seen among you in all your territory for 7 days, nor shall any of the meat which you sacrifice the first day at twilight remain overnight until morning. And there shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coast 7 days, neither shall there anything of the flesh, which thou sacrificedst the first day at even, remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates which the Lord your God gives you. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee. But at the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide, there you shall sacrifice the Passover at twilight, at the going down of the sun, at the time you came out of Egypt. But at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. And you shall roast and eat it in the place which the Lord your God chooses, and in the morning you shall turn and go to your tents. And thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, and thou shalt turn in the morning, and go unto thy tents. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a sacred assembly to the Lord your God. You shall do no work on it. 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord thy God, thou shalt do no work therein. You shall count 7 weeks for yourself, begin to count the 7 weeks from the time you begin to put the sickle to the grain. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee, begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. Then you shall keep the feast of weeks to the Lord your God with the tribute of a freewill offering from your hand, which you shall give as the Lord your God blesses you. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with a tribute of a freewill offering of thine hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according as the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, the Levite who is within your gates, the stranger and the fatherless and the widow who are among you, at the place where the Lord your God chooses to make his name abide. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou, and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to place his name there. And you shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and you shall be careful to observe these statutes. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe and do these statutes. You shall observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days, when you have gathered from your threshing floor and from your winepress. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days, after that thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine. And you shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant and the Levite, the stranger and the fatherless and the widow, who are within your gates. And thou shalt rejoice in thy feast, thou, and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite, the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, that are within thy gates. 7 days you shall keep a sacred feast to the Lord your God in the place which the Lord chooses, Because the Lord your God will bless you in all your produce and in all the work of your hands, so that you surely rejoice. 7 days shalt thou keep a solemn feast unto the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord shall choose, because the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thine increase, and in all the works of thine hands, therefore thou shalt surely rejoice. 3 times a year all your males shall appear before the Lord your God in the place which he chooses, at the feast of unleavened bread, at the feast of weeks, and at the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty-handed. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord your God which he has given you. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God which he hath given thee. You shall appoint judges and officers in all your gates, which the Lord your God gives you, according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. Judges and officers shalt thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. You shall not pervert justice, you shall not show partiality, nor take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous. Thou shalt not wrest judgment, thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise, and pervert the words of the righteous. You shall follow what is altogether just, that you may live and inherit the land which the Lord your God is giving you. That which is altogether just shalt thou follow, that thou mayest live, and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. You shall not plant for yourself any tree, as a wooden image, near the altar which you build for yourself to the Lord your God. Thou shalt not plant thee a grove of any trees near unto the altar of the Lord thy God, which thou shalt make thee. You shall not set up a sacred pillar, which the Lord your God hates. Neither shalt thou set thee up any image, which the Lord thy God hateth. Psalms 85. Lord, you have been favorable to your land, you have brought back the captivity of Jacob. To the chief musician, a psalm for the sons of Korah. Lord, thou hast been favorable unto thy land, thou hast brought back the captivity of Jacob. You have forgiven the iniquity of your people, you have covered all their sin, Selah. Thou hast forgiven the iniquity of thy people, thou hast covered all their sin. Selah. You have taken away all your wrath, you have turned from the fierceness of your anger. Thou hast taken away all thy wrath, thou hast turned thyself from the fierceness of thine anger. Restore us, O God of our salvation, and cause your anger toward us to cease. Turn us, O God of our salvation, and cause thine anger toward us to cease. Will you be angry with us forever? Will you prolong your anger to all generations? Wilt thou be angry with us forever? Wilt thou draw out thine anger to all generations? Will you not revive us again, that your people may rejoice in you? Wilt thou not revive us again, that thy people may rejoice in thee? Show us your mercy, Lord, and grant us your salvation. Shew us thy mercy, O Lord, and grant us thy salvation. I will hear what God the Lord will speak, for he will speak peace to his people and to his saints, but let them not turn back to folly. I will hear what God the Lord will speak, for he will speak peace unto his people, and to his saints, but let them not turn again to folly. Surely his salvation is near to those who fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Surely his salvation is nigh them that fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Mercy and truth have met together, righteousness and peace have kissed. Mercy and truth are met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Yes, the Lord will give what is good, and our land will yield its increase. Yeah, the Lord shall give that which is good, and our land shall yield her increase. Righteousness will go before him, and shall make his footsteps our pathway. Righteousness shall go before him, and shall set us in the way of his steps.